socially distanced with masks on, but it's good to see people here in the audience today as we start our meeting on May 4th. It is 9 a.m., so we will call this meeting to order. We will begin with the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be given by Pastor DeSager of Progressive Missionary Baptist Church. So if you are willing and you are able, we ask that you stand for both the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, Pastor. With apologies, Pastor, it seems you're on mute.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, and everyone. If you all would join me in a word of prayer. Our Father and our God, we first come and say thank you, Lord, for this another day. We thank you for your grace and for your mercy. Lord God, we come now, Lord, gathered together today to be about your business for this great city of Wichita. So we ask that your spirit would fall afresh on the leadership of this city. The Lord, you would touch us individually and collectively. The Lord, you would allow us, Lord, to be about the business to edify this city, Lord, and to lead it and direct it in the way that you would have it to go. Bless each council member, Lord, their families, and give them grace and mercy, Lord, that would allow them to serve in the way that you would have them to go. Lord, we pray for our city. We thank you for the many blessings in which you have bestowed upon us. And we just ask, Lord, that all that is did and said on today would be done decently and in order to your glory and for the city's benefit. Again, we thank you from whence we've come. We thank you for where we are, and we thank you in advance for where we are going. Continue to have your way, and we will continue to give you praise, honor, and glory. And we ask all of these things in Jesus' name. And for his sake, we do pray. And then we all said, amen, and amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Body will stand at ease as we wait for the arrival of the Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor has arrived, everyone. Madam Clerk.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on April 27th, 2021.
Has every member had a chance to review the minutes? If so, is there any discussion on the minutes or proposed changes? There is no discussion or proposed changes to the minutes. I will make a motion to pass the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the votes. The result of 7 yeas, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Under proclamations, we have Asian American Pacific Heritage Month.
We'd ask that those who are here to receive the proclamation for Asian American Pacific Heritage Month to please make your way to the front if you are willing. So I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, I'll hand it off, and then if there's anybody who wants to take pictures, we take pictures afterwards. And if anybody wants to speak, you can speak afterwards. Let me see if I can. I'm going to try not to knock this thing over. All right, if you want, you guys can stand behind here in case anyone, so those who are watching can see you. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas May 2021 is being recognized nationwide as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month to celebrate the culture, tradition, and history of Asian Pacific Islanders in the United States. And whereas approximately 20,000 Asian and Pacific Islanders reside in Wichita. And whereas many leaders in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors in Wichita are Asian and Pacific Islanders. And whereas the Asian Association has, for the past 39 years, showcased Asian cultures through culinary and performing arts during the annual Wichita Asian Festival each October. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2020 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to join the Wichita Asian Association in supporting efforts that include public education about Asian and Pacific Islanders in the United States.
Thank you, Mayor Whipple. We thank the Wichita City Council for approving a proclamation to recognize Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in our community. For the safety of our volunteers and audience, the Wichita Asian Association celebrations of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month will be held virtually this year. On Sunday, May 9, Mother's Day, our first Asian Heritage Month celebration event, streamed on WA's YouTube channel at 3 p.m., will showcase traditional attires and cultural performances. On Saturday, May 15, our collaboration with Mark Arts, the second annual Explore Asia event, will be broadcasted live from Mark Arts at noon. I would also like to share some exciting news regarding our annual Wichita Asian Festival. After months of thoughtful and careful consideration, the Wichita Asian Association Board of Directors has decided to host the 40th annual Wichita Asian Festival this fall. Last year, we postponed this signature event due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This year, we are excited to announce that we are moving forward with planning the 40th Wichita Asian Festival for Saturday, October 23rd at Century 2 in downtown Wichita. We look forward to celebrating all these events with you. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts for updates and announcements. Thank you. I would like to introduce our volunteers. May Bourne, Treasurer. Sonali Kuleka, Secretary. Lily Wu, Past President. Deanna Wang, Miss Wichita Asian Festival 2019. And I'm Chao Lu, the President.
Madam Clerk,
Public Service Recognition Week.
is Mr. Bell here? Oh, good. It's tough for me to get pictures where I'm the only one sitting next to Mr. Bell. Need to get more normalized people around us. There we go. Don't worry. How are you? Nice to see you. How are you?
Hey, sir. Nice to see you.
How are you? All right, clerk already read this. All right, proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels. These unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. Their tireless efforts are especially critical today during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. Whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, Border Patrol officers, embassy employees, healthcare professionals, and others risk their lives each day in service to the people of the United States and around the world. Whereas without these public servants, at every level, continually would be impossible in a democracy, and regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 8th, 2021 as Public Service Recognition Week in the City of Wichita, and call upon the people of Wichita to acknowledge the importance of our legal and judicial systems and encourage schools, businesses, media, religious institutions, civic and service organizations to join members of the bar and bench in commemorating Public Service Recognition Week. Does anyone like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Whipple, and good morning, everyone. City Council, City Manager. Again, this is a great opportunity to recognize the many public servants throughout our community. This morning, what we have in front of you is a small representation of the broader federal community of public servants here in our city. There are over 20 different federal agencies in the area with over 3,000 federal team members. Today, I would specifically like to recognize a few members of my team. I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration, and it's my privilege and honor to be a part of a great team. I've got my Deputy Director here, Sarah Haymaker, if you would stand, Sarah. We've got Mary Christie Henry, one of our Lender Relations team. Janelle Jones, one of our Lender Relations team. And Terry Taylor, who's a Business Opportunity Specialist. You all might imagine in the past 12 months that as part of the Small Business Administration, we've worked with literally thousands of business owners and stakeholders, lending institutions, all with the idea of helping to get our small business community connected to the vital disaster relief resources within the SBA. So at this time, I would ask some of the other representatives of other federal agencies to say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Candace Ifabi. I am the CEO of the Robert J. Dole VA Medical Center. I have a small amount of my staff here with me today, and I would like to introduce them. Ms. Corrine Horde, she works in the lab. Stephanie Werner, she is a primary care nurse. We also have Justin Millen, who works in environmental management services. We have our Chief of Environmental Management Services, Mr. Raymond Miles. And last but not least, we have Mr. Jeff Herndon. He's our Public Affairs Officer. It is my honor to celebrate the incredibly talented and dedicated workforce at the Robert J. Dole VA Medical Center. Since the COVID-19 pandemic arrived in Kansas at the beginning of March last year, we have all been challenged in many ways. Our staff at the Robert J. Dole VA Medical Center remained resilient, determined, and we never stopped providing our veterans with the world-class care that they needed and deserved. I and the rest of the Robert J. Dole VA leadership team could not be prouder of our organization and our staff. We have exceptionally compassionate and talented healthcare professionals who make a difference in the lives of thousands of veterans every single day. We are honored to be part of this community and appreciate the recognition of our efforts during Public Service Recognition Week. Thank you.
Good morning to each of you. My name is Dawn Evans. I am the Field Office Director for Department of Homeland Security, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. This morning, I have my Immigration Services Officer, Penny Weedcamp, here to represent our agency at USCIS. We are very proud and esteemed to be honored today for Proclamation Week. We make the community here in Wichita, not only with our attorneys and stakeholders, but with our immigrants who live within the city of Wichita and throughout the greater Kansas area. We make a difference in giving them the benefits that they do at times apply for United States citizenship, as well as lawful permanent residence. During the pandemic, our agency was challenged as well, and we faced many difficulties in the way that we had to serve the public. However, we overcame these challenges, and thus we were able to reopen our business and still provide the services for our immigrants that lives in the Wichita and greater Kansas area. On behalf of my staff and on behalf of USCIS, we are proud to be a part of this community, and we are proud of all the public servants that we serve here. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, Council. I'm a very last-minute addition. One of my meetings was canceled this morning, but I'm so glad that I could show up to represent the GSA, General Services Administration. Two of us in Wichita represent all of the federal buildings and leases in this area and surrounding areas. And it has been our responsibility to keep those facilities clean, following the requirements for COVID, and keep those buildings up and running. It is an honor, and it is my duty, and I am pleased to be a part of this PBS week. Thank you so much.
Now, if we get together, I'm going to hand this off, but also if we can, I guess, get behind for a picture. Who wants to? Mr. Bell, probably.
I would love to take it initially, but I'm gonna give it to one of my federal colleagues. Yeah, let's take it. Yeah. Sarah, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Those who are here to collect the proclamation for the National Travel and Tourism Week, please make your way to the front. Just one. Madam Clerk.
National Travel and Tourism Week.
Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the travel and tourism industry was a significant contributor to the U.S. economy and exports, and supported millions of hardworking Americans of all backgrounds. And whereas travel and spending is down nearly $500 billion, costing the U.S. economy $1.1 trillion. And whereas here in Kansas, travel spending was down by 33%. Federal, state, and local tax revenues declined by 27%, which helped fund public programs. And whereas the devastating losses have proven how critical travel is to our community, the U.S. economy, and the American workforce. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 8th, 2021 as National Travel and Tourism Week in the City of Wichita, and encourage all Wichitans, recognize the power of travel in Wichita and throughout the nation, and to acknowledge the industry's role in bringing back our vibrant communities, restoring the U.S. economy, and rebuilding our workforce.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. It's a pleasure to be here today on behalf of the travel and tourism industry. No doubt this last year has been extremely difficult, has been hit hard, but today, as we're turning the corner, we're here just to acknowledge this industry and to celebrate it, and to encourage Wichitans and visitors alike to get out and support the wonderful offerings right here in Wichita. And starting on Memorial Day, we have 2 new ways for residents and visitors to get out and explore this great city. And so I'm going to take just a couple minutes and talk about them. The Wicked Brew Tour is back. This is our 5th year. This is a really popular tour. You pick up a passport at one of our participating breweries and coffee houses. You get it stamped after you have a great cup of coffee or a cold beer. You drop it off at the visitor center and you'll pick up your commemorative Wicked Brew t-shirt. And I'll tell you, in 2019, we had over 21 different states represented through this program. So not only Wichitans are loving participating, so are visitors. And thanks to Councilmember Johnson, who asked about our attractions this summer, we are launching a new passport program, our Attractions Tour. So this summer, we encourage residents to get out, pick up a passport at one of our participating attractions, visit 6 of our attractions all summer long. You're going to get your passport stamped. You're going to drop it off at the visitor center, and then we're going to draw for the grand prize, and we are giving away something we've never given away before. It's the Ultimate 2022 Attractions Pass. You and your family will win an attraction or a pass to visit every one of our attractions in Wichita for the entire 2022. And there's more, wait, there's more. This summer, when you're out and about with your passport, take a picture at our attractions, post it on social media, because we are going to be giving away prizes all summer long as we encourage residents, visitors to get out and explore our incredible city. Again, I want to thank the council so much for your tireless work over the past year. It's exciting to be standing where we are today and turning the corner, and again, appreciate and invite everyone to get out and explore our incredible city. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Madam Clerk.
Travis Washington, Hands Up Act.
Mr. Washington, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Okay, you hear me clearly? Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Travis Washington. I was recently in the Sunflower newspaper for the creation of the Hands Up Act. It's a law where if a police officer shoots somebody in the arm, it's a mandatory 15-year prison sentence. I've received more than 2.7 million signatures. I've had the support of Breonna Taylor's mother, Jacob Blake's father, Michael Brown's mother, and Antoine Rose's mother. And I'm asking the Wichita City Hall to vote on this piece of legislation. This issue of police brutality needs to be answered and answered immediately. And I'm looking to the City Hall to be in the right direction of history, because it's going to happen again. It can be you, or anybody in this room. I'm asking the City Hall to stand with me on this action, or to at least vote on this action. Right now, a lot of us, especially in the African American community and Latino community, are scared to leave their homes. The day Breonna Taylor died was a day that I couldn't sleep at night because a police officer broke into a house. And that's why I'm asking City Hall to vote on this legislation. The Hands Up Act is the only way where people can feel comfortable with the police. Once again, it's Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Philando Castile, Antoine Rose, Alton Sterling, Terrence Crutcher, Breonna Taylor, Anita Jefferson, Stephon Clark, Daniel Shavers, and most recently, Adam Toledo. Sean Monteroso. How many more bodies before we take a stand? I'm going to continue to push this legislation, but I need the City Hall to vote on it. Matter of fact, I want you guys to vote on it and look it up. I appreciate this time and these couple of minutes to speak before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Kent Rowe, establishing a sustainability board.
Good morning, council members.
Morning and welcome.
My name is Kent Rowe, and I'm here to appeal for establishment of a sustainability board for the city of Wichita. As a member of the WSU Sustainability Day Planning Committee, we showcased a range of technologies, innovations, and recent developments concerning energy, materials, and pollution elimination. My years as an instructor for the U.S. Air Force saw a remarkable expansion of military microgrids, which augmented resilience, safety, and power quality within mission-critical facilities. That expansion continues today. As an evaluator for research presentations for the 51st North American Power Symposium in October 2018, I was able to gather a plethora of knowledge concerning the power grid, and that is called electrification. February's devastation of the power grid in Texas demonstrated the usefulness of islanded electrical microgrids, which enabled isolation from centralized power grids and kept homes, businesses, hospitals, clinics, and so forth as supplied during record low temperatures. We ourselves at our home exported voltage from our own solar panels when the rural cooperative called for additional voltage. Now, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, Rule number 2222 allows homeowners to sell their excess generated power on the open wholesale market. Power purchase agreements can be contracted anywhere from distant capacity markets to local neighborhood photovoltaic generators who agree to supply grocery stores, clinics, plug-in service vehicles, schools and school buses, by deferring their loads by battery storage, electric vehicle bidirectional flow, heat pump thermal storage, both heating and cooling, at high demand times when prices are at their peak. This accomplishes reinvestment into those communities. Solar PV can be installed in a number of structures, carports, pergolas, patio covers, as well as greenhouse facilities with a bifacial aspect to them, which allow the light to pass through them for indoor food production, while at the same time accomplishing power for refrigeration and transportation. Most importantly, those urban environments most affected by poor air quality, low emission zones can be declared with a rapid adoption of electric vehicles. A good example of this, the model is the Chicago Utility Board, Citizens Utility Board, that allows for car sharing, purchase, these kinds of things to clean up these neighborhoods like we have along the I-135 corridor. And we've measured the soot, the hydrocarbons, and we continue to do so. This is one aspect of a sustainability board which rural, urban, and suburban environments can be utilized. 5 measures: set ambitious goals for solar energy adoption, implement solar access ordinances, promote solar or require new homes to install solar panels and or be net zero energy, consider creating a municipal utility or community choice aggregation system where investor-owned utilities are unwilling to cooperate or promote solar power. And finally, encourage fair net metering policies. This is ongoing. We have a good source of very talented people that are willing to serve on a sustainability advisory committee. Please give this additional consideration. We're looking at mental health alleviation, crime, and a revenue stream for residents who most need it. Thank you very much for hearing me out. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 11.
Has every member had a chance to review the consent agenda? And if so, is there any discussion on the items on the consent agenda? If there is no discussion, then I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Result of 7 yeas, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Report of Board of Bids and Contracts and Wichita Airport Authority Board of Bids and Contracts dated May 3rd, 2021.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Hannah Lane, Department of Finance. Here to present the Board of Bids. First engineering bid we have is water treatment plant pump station switchgear maintenance. P1 Group for $103,156. Paving Hickory Creek to serve Turkey Creek 3rd Edition Phase 2. Kansas Paving for $280,674.03. Paving Jewel Street to serve Turkey Creek 4th Edition Phase 2. Kansas Paving for $214,388.54. Paving Haskell Street to serve Turkey Creek 4th Edition Phase 1A. Kansas Paving for $158,977.51. Water Distribution System tied for Schulte Johnson 2nd Edition. McCullough Excavation for Groups 1, 2, and 3 for a bid total of $1,112,685. Osage Park Tennis and Pickleball Courts defer to May 10th Board of Bids. Manhole and Inlet Frames and Covers defer to May 10th. Jabara Airport Taxi Lane A3 Extension, Pearson Construction for $637,742.70. Airport CCTV replacement defer to May 10th. This is our purchasing procurement website, as well as our current open request for proposals. That is the Board of Bid recommendations. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
The questions of staff. Is there input from the public? Bring discussion back to the bench. The discussion on the item. If there is no discussion, then I'll make the motion to take staff's recommended action to receive and file the report, approve the contracts, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the votes.
Councilmember Tuttle, would you cast your vote, please?
Oh, I thought I hit it. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With a result of 7 yeas, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing on proposed assessments for 37 paving projects, 33 water projects, 29 sewer projects, and 18 storm sewer projects in the September 2021 bond sale series 828.
Welcome and good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item before you this morning is a public hearing on proposed assessments for 117 projects totaling just under $23 million in the September 2021 bond sale. The City Council was notified on February 23rd of this year that the proposed assessment rolls were on file for public inspection in the Department of Finance. Notice of hearing letters were published February 26th for 37 paving projects, 33 water line, 29 sewer, and 18 storm sewer projects. All affected property owners have been notified in writing, and on March 15th, the Departments of Finance and Public Works held a virtual informal hearing to answer questions and discuss the projects. There were a significant number of people in attendance at the virtual meeting. I think it actually worked pretty well. It's the first time we've done it that way, I think, at least the first time I was involved. A lot of people got to hear the answers to some of the same questions, and as far as we know from that informal hearing, all the questions were answered. Pending approval today, statements of special assessments will be mailed to the property owners on May 14th of 2021. The property owners then have 30 days from the date of statement to pay the assessment and avoid paying interest. The assessments not paid during this period will be again in the September 2021 bond sale. Interest will be added and placed then on the 2022 tax roll in November. Looking at the overall breakout of the 117 projects, all but 5 projects were signed by 100% of the property owners within the benefit district. Typically what happens on the others that were not is it's either an infill project, or with these new developments, sometimes the developers make changes later in the development to change things with the plat, with the phasing, whatever it might be to meet market conditions. Some of the properties have been sold at that time. We generally try to ensure that those who did not sign the new petition, that their assessments did not change or certainly did not increase. So there are 5 projects that were not signed by 100%, but the rest of them were within the 117. With that, staff recommends City Council close the public hearing, approve the proposed assessments, and place the ordinances on first reading, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions of staff? No questions. Is there input from the public? See none. Discussion comes back to the bench. Is there any discussion on the item? See none. With that, I will make the motion and take staff's recommended action to close the public hearing, approve the proposed assessments, and place the ordinance on first read.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Result of 7 yeas, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Amendments to the Title 2018 International Fire Code.
Welcome, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Whipple, City Council, City Manager Layton. My name is Jose Ocades, Battalion Chief of the Community Risk Reduction Division. I'm here today to ask to adopt the 2018 International Fire Code and amendments. The 2018 International Fire Code is a maintenance code to the adopted 2018 International Building Code. In the United States, most jurisdictions use model building codes as their basis for local ordinances. For nearly 50 years, Wichita has reviewed, amended, and adopted model building codes and fire codes on a 3- or 6-year cycle. Codes continue to evolve towards the needs and best interests of the city of Wichita. As you can see, the last 2 approved code adoptions, along with our 2018 proposed amendments, have been reduced. An amendment is a change or addition designed to improve the code to better suit the city of Wichita. With respect to the adoption of the 2018 edition of the International Fire Code, Wichita Fire Department staff worked closely with our stakeholders to develop code amendments unique to our community. In preparation for the proposed amendments, Wichita Fire Department Committee studied and reviewed the 2015 International Fire Code and 2018 International Building Code to ensure consistency with the 2018 International Fire Code amendments. A few significant amendments. Permit fees was first established in 2006. We are asking to increase the fee by $20. During the amendment process, we conducted a cost analysis of labor, transportation, and related our fees to other departments along the I-35 corridor. Operational permits along with I-35 corridor average $105. We are asking for fees up to $85 for state mandated inspections. This was also part of the cost analysis in comparison to fire departments in the Midwest. Fees range from $102 to $204 with the median of $153. For both open burn locations and approved burn containers, we have reduced the requirements from our previous amendment. We took a proactive approach and listened to our developers and contractors. We reduced the distance by conducting an inspection of the proposed burn site. Require sufficient water supply, limit size of the pile, and approve materials. By reducing the distance requirements, we've given the developers and contractors an additional cost-saving alternative. Next 2 amendments are new to the fire code. We are omitting section 319 and will continue to enforce current city ordinance on food trucks. Outdoor storage facilities will follow the new requirements for outdoor pallet storage. Enhancements made to the 2018 fire code. In new construction, buildings that are 55 feet and taller with combustible attic construction will be required to be sprinklered. Emergency radio responder radio coverage will not require installation of a radio amplifier in existing buildings. The Wichita Fire Department will issue premise warnings and we have tested suitcase-sized amplifiers to deploy into these buildings. The International Code Council added 12 new codes to the 2018 International Fire Code. 6 of these fall under our fee schedule of operational permits at $85. I stand for any questions.
Questions of staff? That's done a good job. Input from the public? Not discussion will come back to the bench. Is there any discussion on the item? If there is none, then I will make the motion to take staff's recommended action to place the ordinance on first reading, authorize all necessary signatures, and approve the publication by summary notification. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. With a result of 7 yeas, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Tourism Business Improvement District 2022 Scope of Services.
Sir, welcome.
Good morning, Mayor Whipple, members of the Wichita City Council. Dante Martins, Assistant City Manager, here to present the 2022 Tourism Business Improvement District Scope of Services and Budget. In 2014, the City Council adopted an ordinance creating the Tourism Business Improvement District. The district's boundaries are the legal limits of the city. Upon approval of the ordinance, the City Council entered into a contract with Visit Wichita to market Wichita to leisure and group visitors, drive hotel demand, and enhance Wichita's image as a destination. In accordance with state statute, the proposed 2022 Scope of Services and Budget is presented annually to City Council for approval. Excuse me. The 2022 Scope of Service and Budget outlines Visit Wichita strategies and budget allocations for leisure marketing and group sales activities, drive visitation to Wichita. Leisure marketing and group sales efforts outlined in the 2022 Scope of Services are funded through TBID revenues generated by a 2.75% nightly hotel assessment. Visit Wichita helps lead the local marketing efforts critical to jumpstart local travel industry recovery efforts. Wichita's 2020 TBID revenue collections were $1.9 million, a 38% decrease from 2019 actuals. This decrease is attributable to the impact COVID-19 had on the travel and the tourism industry. The forecasted 2022 TBID revenue is $2.74 million. This amount is based on the STR Tourism Economics countrywide estimate that 2022 hotel revenues will be 11.5% below 2019 levels. Strategy and budget adjustments will be made on the 2021 and 2022 COVID-19 recovery timeline and actual TBID collections. If projections change or if collections are less than anticipated, the budget will be adjusted accordingly. In addition to approving the TBID scope of services for 2022, the City Council is asked to approve the use of carryover funds from 2020 that were a result of reduced expenses. The 2020 carryover funds total a little bit over $1.29 million and would be used for 2021 activities to support the Wichita travel industry through the COVID-19 crisis and the travel industry recovery. The effective carryover balance is estimated to be $939,000 roughly. This is given a $356,000 reduction in the 2021 TBID revenue collection forecast. The TBID board reviewed and approved the use of carryover funds during its February 2021 meeting. This approval included the allocation of approximately half of the actual carryover to summer-fall leisure campaign, when travel sentiment studies show American travelers are planning to travel at a higher rate this year. Staff's recommendation is to receive, approve, and file the Tourism Improvement District 2022 Scope of Services and Budget. Susie Santo, President and CEO of Visit Wichita, would like to make a few comments and also is available for questions.
Of course. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dante. Susie Santo, 515 South Main Street. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. It's a pleasure to actually be here in person this year. Last year when I came before you, we were at the beginning of the pandemic and there were so many unknowns. And while there are still unknowns, we are turning the corner. However, I think it's really important to note that we are still down significantly in revenue compared to 2019. So these TBID dollars are so important to drive visitors to our hotels, our restaurants, and attractions. Last year, we made the fiscally responsible decision to cease advertising until the time was right. It was clear through the national travel sentiment research that people did not want to travel. And so therefore, we held the dollars from last year to be utilized to jumpstart the travel recovery and sustain and build on the increasing positive travel sentiment tracked by national research. This year, the TBID Council approved how those funds will be allocated, and you will see that on the 2021 Scope of Services, the revised column in your packet. I'm excited to share with you that we have resumed our advertising efforts. We launched our Faces, Places, and Hearts campaign digitally. If you haven't seen it, I invite you to go visit wichita.com or YouTube and check them out. We're able to highlight the incredible people and places in the heart of our city. And starting next week, we will resume our television advertising, and it will be a robust campaign that will run all summer long. While we saw last year quite a few sporting events postponed, they are coming back. We successfully hosted the NAIA Wrestling and Basketball Championships. We are hosting the NJCAA Soccer Champions out at Stryker this summer, along with the Wheelchair Basketball Championships and Beep Baseball. Baseball for the visually impaired is going to be an incredible event. National event will be back here, or will be here for the first time this summer. And we can't forget, we just announced TBT is coming back. The basketball tournament will be at Coke Arena. This year, we're inviting 16 teams. In 19, we had 8 teams, so now we've got 16 teams coming. So sports will continue to play an important part in our recovery. Finally, in the meetings and the conventions markets, we have launched the Flexibility Promise, which eliminates the barriers and makes it easy for our meeting planners to choose Wichita. We've promoted this via advertising to our meeting planners around the country and will continue to do so throughout the summer. It's important to note, too, the group market will follow the leisure and the sports market in the recovery, the leisure market driving the recovery. And the 2022 Scope of Services approved by the TBID Advisory Council continues on the 21 strategy with a robust marketing plan for leisure, sports, meeting, and conventions. The key strategic drivers are outlined in your packet. And finally, I do want to talk about the $2.745 million estimate that is set before you for revenue. As Dante mentioned, we are anticipating next year's revenues to be down about 11.5% to 2019. This is based on the latest forecast by U.S. Travel. But we will continue to be flexible. We have to be. We have to watch how collections are going and work side by side with the TBID Advisory Council to make any adjustments. Finally, I just want to thank all of you for the tough conversations you've had during this past year, to keep Wichita safe, keep our businesses open. It was a heck of a year, and I really just want to say thank you so much. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the conferee? See none, well done. Sorry, I think the Vice Mayor is pushing his button. Any further discussion? Any input from the public? Discussion back to the bench. Any more discussion on this item? There we go. Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Susie, one question, semi-related. Working with SMARI, I think that's how you would say that, do they inquire about what folks do when they get to Wichita?
They do. What we look at, and I would have to go back and look, because we did not do SMARI research this past year because we didn't do advertising, but we will resume that again this fall. And what we tend to look at is overall how much they spend and how long they stay. So we'll look and see, and I'm glad you asked about the SMARI, because we're able to see those that saw our advertising and those that didn't see our advertising. And what we've consistently seen throughout the TBID is that those that have seen the advertising, they stay longer, they do more, and they spend more. So we see it in the totality. I don't think we get down to if they visited the zoo versus exploration place.
Not to add additional cost and work, but I would be interested to see, because that might help promote, because I know what I like in Wichita, but I'm from here. It'd be interesting to see what folks, as they're going to the airport or something and they see some survey like, what did you do, or something like that, just to see what the main attraction was for them.
We are, I'm hesitant to talk about this because I get so excited and you kind of want to see how it plays out. But part in our budget, we've hired a new platform of data collection. And we're actually doing some testing, and we're testing some digital advertising in our fly markets so that we're testing advertising in St. Louis. And we can compare people that came in from St. Louis, and when we look at that, we were able to see what they did while they were here. We now have the ability to see they stayed at these hotels and they did these activities. So we're starting to get data. It doesn't come through Smart, it comes through a different provider that we've never had before. So stay tuned, because if it pans out to what we're hoping, we're going to gain a lot of intelligence and be able to use it in our marketing.
Awesome. That's exciting to hear.
It's really exciting. I get really excited about the data.
Sorry, and so exciting that I'm jumping in on this. So could we actually, with your data, perhaps this time next year, be able to see not just what people do, but almost collections of what people do? And so we can see what Wichita is kind of known for as far as whether it's events that do with sporting, whether it's our let's say our parks and so on. Like, will we be able to actually look at the data to see what we do really well with attracting folks here, so that we might have a better way to grow upon that as we look towards other policy?
Maureen on our team has been working with the provider, and she's going to kill me, but I'm going to cautiously say that's our hope. And the way you slice and dice the data, it's pretty incredible, because we're able to see, let's say they came for Riverfest, and we know that they were in Riverfest. What else did they do? It's also interesting when you look at when they're coming in for a sporting event or coming in for something, what else are they doing while we're here? So if it turns out to be what we hope, and we're only about 3 months into collecting, so a year from now we should have a robust year, and we'll really be able to tell how we can slice and dice it. But it's, since I've been in the role 9 years, I've always looked for those providers, and there's been a lot out there talking that they can do it, but this one really seems to kind of be a game changer. So stay tuned. Can I say that?
Yes.
Stay tuned. More to come.
Looking forward to it. Councilmember Bluebog.
Thank you, Mayor. And Suzu, thanks for all you've done, coming off a challenging year and looking forward to how we move forward. What's our saturation, or what regions are we looking at right now for the TV advertising?
TV advertising, we're still in our local, or I say our regional. So we're in the Kansas City market, which is still a driver, throughout Kansas into Oklahoma. Those are our primary, and that's based on really where our leisure overnight visitors are coming from in that think about kind of a 3 or 4 hour drive.
So stations in Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Tulsa?
You got it. Okay. Yep. And Western Kansas.
And here
and Topeka.
Well?
I believe that we will still see it here because it made more sense to keep it in, and so it'd be a different messaging. What we've done in the past is get out to see all there is to do in your own backyard versus because we buy the whole area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions or discussion on the side? See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, is there any discussion or input from the public? See none. With that, we will give it back to staff for further comments.
No further comments, Mayor. The staff recommendation is to receive, approve, and file the TBID 2022 Scope of Services and Budget.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make the motion to take staff's recommended action to receive, approve, and file the Business Improvement District 2022 Scope of Service and Budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk, open the roll. Members, cast the vote. So to 7 yeas, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2021 and 2022 third program year annual action plan.
Director Stang, welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Sally Stang with the Housing and Community Services Department, for the record. The item that I have for you today is the 21-22 third program year annual action plan for our community development programs. So the city receives an annual allocation of funds for community development activities under the Community Development Division of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The funding activities align with the city's goals of creating a livable and a sustainable community, and they're used to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. So we have three major entitlement funds. The Community Development Block Grant Fund, it's used for a wide array of programming. It is our most flexible form of funding. It actually has 101 eligible uses. And our 2021-22 award amount is $2,925,565. We have the Home Investment Partnership Program. This program's all about the creation of affordable housing units. And our funding for this next year is $1,519,843. And then we have the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is specifically used to address issues of homelessness. And the grant amount for this year is $250,208. This is the earliest we've actually received our allocations in several years, which is great news. So we have a pretty robust planning process for the community development funds. It starts with the creation of a 5-year consolidated plan that we completed and submitted in 2019 to cover the years 2019 through 2024. And then each year we come back to you with the annual action plan, which really identifies the programs and the funding allocations for that particular year. So this plan represents the third program year, 2021-2022, and it's due to HUD on May 15th, and allocates the funds for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. So as part of our consolidated plan, what came out of that were some high priority funding areas, and many of our projects that we recommend fall within those project areas after we heard back from the public. And we just wanted to give you a visual. The high priority funding area are the salmon colored areas, and there are many areas that there overlap. We're showing you also where the opportunity zones fall. So we're seeing many of our programming activities occur in both high priority funding areas and opportunity zones. So CDBG, as I said, it's our most flexible form of funding. Programs must meet a national objective to either benefit low-mod income families, prevent slum or blight, or respond to an urgent community need. Although not less than 70% can be used to benefit low-mod persons. So some funding can be used for historic preservation, sometimes slum and blight that doesn't necessarily benefit a low-mod individual, but the majority of our funding, much more than 70%, is targeted to the low-mod benefit areas. Again, the allocation is just under $3 million for this program year. And we are recommending an additional allocation of $50,000 to the facade program, which just launched March 1st. And we are still fielding questions and information from the community on applications. We have not entered into a funding proposal yet with last year's $50,000, but we are recommending adding an additional $50,000 to that pot. And it is to propose to assist business owners in low-income areas and in making improvements to the facades of their buildings. The second area is our housing activities. So every year we fund the homeowner repair program. That's one of our major programs. You'll see it just over $1 million in funding for both program administration and actual construction. The one thing we did learn, and feedback we received, overwhelming feedback we received during the DAB presentations, was they wanted to see more funding in this particular area. And so this allocation this year includes an increase of $150,000 over last year in response to that feedback. But we've also provided and are setting funds aside to pilot a land bank project. We know the Places for People plan, one of the recommendations was the establishment of a land bank. And so we do see an intersect where we can actually work to build additional affordable housing using the land bank model, should it be approved by the council. So of course, if the land bank does not get established, those funds would have to be reallocated to another capital project. But this way, we actually have funds set aside so that we can try and move that forward. So we're very excited about the land bank. So the funding would be not just staff to stand up the land bank, but for real property acquisition, land assemblage, title clearance expenses, site improvements, carrying costs, program delivery. The properties were acquired using CDBG funds would be required to be for an affordable housing or other benefit, public benefit purpose that meets a CDBG national objective. And it would assist us in moving forward activities recommended under the Places for People plan approved by the council in June of 2019. Of course, there's CDBG administration, so we have program management costs and indirect costs. We're looking at $585,113 for that. We also fund public services. So most jurisdictions have a 15% cap on what they can fund for public services. The City of Wichita was grandfathered a higher cap, and we do expend a much higher cap amount than 15% of our allocation for public services. And so under the public service activity, we're looking at $385,000 for expenses related to the Office of Community Services, so funding the neighborhood resource centers. That's level funding from last year. Domestic violence shelter services in the amount of $250,000. Youth crime prevention and enrichment for $200,000. And the summer youth employment program, the Way to Work, $200,000. So as part of our processes for selecting programs or organizations to fund, the council appoints people to the grants review committee. This process starts in December, where we issue RFPs under our targeted funding activities. The grants review committee goes through a long process to review those proposals and makes funding recommendations back. So the grants review committee for this funding year reviewed our proposals and applications received from the communities. And then they conducted a public hearing in February, on February 18th, 2021, and they made selections of proposals and funding recommendations. We're providing those to you now. So for the domestic violence shelter activity, the Grants Review Committee recommends funding Catholic Charities Harbor House, $97,155, Stepstone Transitional Housing, $23,593, and the Wichita Family Crisis Center, $129,252 for the full $250,000 allocation set aside. For youth services, the Grants Review Committee recommends funding the YMCA Middle School After School Program, $115,000 for their after school program for 4,300 youth. And the Kansas Big Brothers Big Sisters program, $35,000 to serve 83 youth with mentors. And then we're also recommending the $50,000, continuing that funding, to the Plainville Youth Activity in the Plainville neighborhood. The Youth Employment Program, so the $200,000 we allocate in CDBG funds for the Way to Work, even though we're allocating them now, and that program hasn't started, they won't be till next year's program. We just have a timing issue on that. So the funding we're using for this year's Way to Work program was actually allocated last year, and this funding will be for next year. We did receive 225 applications this year from youth looking to participate in the Way to Work program. So that's a pretty significant increase over previous years, and we are still looking for business placement opportunities, because we have a few, we don't have spaces to put people to work. It's an excellent opportunity for local businesses, nonprofits to get additional assistance while helping youth learn job skills. So we really love the Way to Work program. The home program, the Community Housing Development Organization set aside. The federal regulations require that 15% of our home funding goes to organizations that meet HUD's criteria to be a community housing development organization, which is a nonprofit affordable housing development organization whose primary focus is the development of affordable housing and whose board includes representatives of low-income neighborhoods on their board. That's a tough level to meet to actually qualify as a CHODO. but we have 3 in our organization, or in our community: Mennonite Housing, Jacob's Ladder, and actually Power CDC. Power CDC did not apply this year for any funding under the Choto set-aside. And so the Grants Review Committee recommended funding Mennonite Housing $200,000 and Jacob's Ladder $74,190. In addition, so the total allocation for the Choto set-asides, the $299,190 in total. We're talking about recommending funding the Housing Development Loan Program, $662,452. This is a revolving loan fund that is available for both nonprofit and for-profit developers to apply for subsidy to build infill single-family home development, or could do affordable rental. It's been going on for many, many years, but this is where many of our newly constructed Habitat Mennonite homes come from this source of funding. And this also supports activities related to the Places for People plan. We also have program administration and indirect charges. And then this year's allocation includes the $406,217 previously authorized for the RAD senior public housing renovation. The Emergency Solutions Grant. HUD requires jurisdictions to consult with the continuum of care about allocations of ESG funds. Impact ICT is our local continuum of care, and they're administered through United Way. And so Impact ICT assigned an administrative team that reviewed the proposals from the community service providers interested in receiving ESG funds. And then they also participated in the public hearings with the GRC, and that occurred on February 18th. And the continuum of care made recommendations for selection and funding to the GRC. So in homelessness assistance, we had $135,628. They recommended Harbor House at $17,163, St. Anthony's $23,846, Humankind Inn at $22,819, Salvation Army $13,567, United Methodist Open Door at $38,156, and the Wichita Family Crisis Center at $20,077. This is almost consistent with the funding that every agency received in the previous year. So it's not a lot of funding. But even the $250,000 we receive in ESG is all we normally receive for homeless services. In the category of homeless prevention, the GRC recommends $25,000 to the Center of Hope, $8,146 to the Salvation Army, and a new organization, Hope Enterprises, $5,000 kind of as a pilot. This is the first time they've applied in this arena, and we're hoping we'll have another provider in our community with that. But what was different with this is that recommendation from the GRC deviated from the Continuum of Care's recommendation, only by about $2,000. So the Continuum of Care actually recommended not funding Center of Hope at their full $25,000 request and funding more to the Salvation Army. But in the end, we take the Grants Review Committee recommendation, and that's what we're proposing to you today. So the total allocation, $250,208. So homelessness assistance is $135,628. Homeless prevention, $38,146. Rapid rehousing, $57,669. That's a program administered through the Housing Office. And then program administration and indirect charges. Under financial considerations, the home program requires a 25% local match. And we meet that through permit fee waivers, additional grants and loans for down payment assistance from other providers, local finance institutions and Chotos providing some match funding, and other organizations receiving development subsidy loans. For ESG, we're required to provide 100% total match, and we satisfy that through the city and the county's general fund contributions to the Housing First program. So we meet that 100% match requirement. There's no other impact to the general fund. The development of the consolidated plan and the annual action plans are required in order for us to receive the federal funds. And it's recommended that the council close the public hearing, approve the funding allocations and staff and grants review committee recommendations, authorize the submission of the 2021-22 annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, authorize the funding agreements and necessary signatures. And I stand for any questions you may have. I know that's a lot to take in.
Councilmember Bubak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Sally, for everything you've done there. One of them I wanted to ask about, just because it's a larger amount, and we've been pretty consistent with the domestic violence shelter services of $250,000 through all the years. Is most of that money, is it going for like hotel vouchers, or is it for the facility we're sustaining? What's
It's
the
both, honestly. Because it depends on the organization. So Harbor House has its own, they're not having to put a lot of people into hotels, but this past year, Wichita Family Crisis Center and the need to social distance saw incredible increases in having to put people into hotels. This is the regular annual funding. Most of this goes towards operations. We were able to provide those organizations additional CARES funding last year to respond to the need for more hotel rooms, the more sanitation, all of those items. But definitely, as we know, because we funded Wichita Family Crisis Center, we're holding on to about $800,000 for their expansion into a larger facility. We know there's tremendous need in our community for more resources in this arena.
Is there any way after the meeting you could get me some numbers, like how many people they've helped and
Sure,
everything?
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Sally. I had one question, but you made me think of another. So a few slides back, you mentioned there was a recommendation to not fully fund Center of Hope. Who made that?
That was from the Impact ICT, the Continuum of Care group, who reviewed the applications. They had made a recommendation to fund Salvation Army about $2,000 more and Center of Hope about $2,000 less. The Grants Review Committee reviewed even past history and felt that because Center of Hope does the job so well to get 100% of those funds out in the community for this purpose, that they felt funding their full request was the way to go.
Did they give a reason why?
You know, I think they were, at that point, they were trying to make the reduction to Salvation Army less harsh. Because the amounts that they requested, you know, even at $23,000 to Center of Hope was the majority of what they requested, and the amount to Salvation Army was a significant cut from what they requested. I think they were trying to soften the blow.
Okay. The question I was going to ask, or not question, well, yeah, could we potentially host another nonprofit workshop like we did? I think that was 2018 or 2019 when we did that.
I think it was the fall of 2019. I think I had just gotten here when we...
Yeah. So I'd like to see that happen again. I look at the Youth Crime Prevention and Enrichment, and given what's going on in the community right now, no knock to these organizations, but we continue to fund the same organizations, and I know 3 right now who actually go out and are working with gang members.
You know, and one of those significant to that is from the consolidated plan, it was very specifically deemed it was to fund middle school age students. And maybe in 2018 and 2019, when that was happening, that may have been really where they thought the priority, where that intervention was really necessary. But with the spikes that we've seen in the older kids, unfortunately, when we put out the RFPs, it's for an RFP in accordance with the consolidated plan. So I absolutely agree. I think we need more resources. That's another reason why we allowed TWTW to expand to double its size, because we knew, and we're bringing in caseworkers this year to work with the students, not just teachers. We knew there needed to be more intervention for those teenage years, not just the middle schoolers.
Could we potentially work with the Juvenile Intervention Unit on the RFP?
They know about it, they communicate with us when we're doing it, but because the focus is in accordance with the consolidated plan, it's been this focus on the middle schoolers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
we do, and especially with TWTW, they're a huge part. They come in almost weekly and work with the kids, make recommendations for kids, make job placement recommendations for kids. They're a real integrated part of that program.
Okay. Well, could we consider looking at the consolidated plan, but also getting input from the Juvenile Intervention Unit? And I say that because the chief in the department always talks about how we have to work as a community, and it's not just law enforcement, but this funding helps community come in and help. So if there's a way to kind of get some ideas or population ideas to add into the RFP from them, then maybe we can get some of these organizations that are doing this work and just need a little bit more support.
Yeah, we would need to amend the consolidated plan in order to do so. But we can. Sure.
Councilmember Claycomb.
Thank you. Thanks, Sally. I have just a couple questions. I did notice that last year we funded the Raise My Head Foundation, and I know that was I believe the first time they were funded, and this year there's a recommendation for no funding.
They did not apply. They did not apply.
Oh, even though it says there was a request, they didn't
I don't
reply?
believe they applied.
Okay.
They've been very challenged with their funding allocation from last year.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
And then you also said, I think you said, that on the Way to Work program, we're still looking for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to really encourage this. How do we promote that to businesses?
We have a great link on our website that I can send to you where businesses can find out information and then submit through an online application if they want to host a youth.
Okay, so that's how we do it. It's
the first year we've actually gone to the electronic application, so it's
Okay.
working really well so far. We have a lot more than we usually do. Last year we only
Okay.
had 100 participants in the Way to Work, and I'm sure some of that was driven by COVID. But 225, we're like scrounging to try and find placements. We've got some really great partnerships. You know, what we piloted with the animal shelter, the 6 kids through the year. Now they want a dozen for the summer, you know, and they have a great success story that is involved with that one. With one of the students they want back to kind of lead as a youth leader of those working at the animal shelter. It's so great. We've got Habitat for Humanity for the first time has stepped up and are looking to, you know, with the Habistore and other opportunities. We're really excited about some new partners we've got coming in this year, but we still need a few more placements.
Okay, and I suspect, I haven't looked at it lately, but probably that shows up on our Facebook post too for the city? Okay.
Yes.
So it scrolls through people's news feed. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Sally, on the housing activities, the recommendation to put 334 in the land bank proposal. First off, how did we get to that number? And then, obviously, we still have a lot of work to do on that still. Is there an opportunity, if it's not used in the land bank for that year, to go back into housing activities?
Absolutely. We could reallocate the funds back. If the land bank isn't established or we don't spend it. One nice thing about CDBG is it doesn't have to be spent during the program year. It can roll from year to year. But what we're held to is we can't have access to more than 1.5 times our allocation. So we have to balance. That's why we came back earlier this year and did some financing on the RED project, because we were holding on to too much money that put it in jeopardy. So, but it does allow us, especially when we have a new pilot program, to say, okay, it might have taken us longer to get that off the ground. We can let that money carry. What we have carrying from last year is the small business assistance. You know, so not a new allocation of money for that. But we still have the $220,000, and we're having conversations about, well, how do we deploy that now? Some of it got honestly pushed to the side because of everything we were doing related to COVID and everything else that was going on. And now we've come back to it and said, we have $220,000 in CDBG funds from last year that we need to get programmed and out on the street this year for small business assistance.
Okay, so the first part of the question, how did we decide on the 334?
Well, the 330, it was about scraping funds together from things we weren't funding for this year, plus the increase in the amount. We knew we needed to fund at least one position to do the work of the land bank, and then we needed additional funding for all of those other items like title clearage and you know, maintenance. If you start to gather, you know, a bunch of not a bunch, but even a few properties, just the cost to keep them mowed and cleaned and all of that will have to come from that funding and hopefully recouped upon sale.
So part of this will fund a position?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, if I could add to that. As you know, the land bank part of Places for People is moving quicker maybe than some of the other pieces, although incentives is right behind it. So on May 6th, the Planning Commission will review and hopefully approve the land bank program, and then it'll come to you on May 18th for approval. So it's pending, it's fairly close. I also wanted to just kind of pull things together. On Places for People, you have a number of programs here that are going to feed into really the first steps for implementation of Places for People. So this is pretty important. There's over $600,000 in housing development loans. There's over $1 million, right, for rehab. And so, again, I think we're now starting to put in place the tools to help with the implementation of the Places for People plan.
Further questions? While we have you, Director Stang, can we get an update on the numbers for the rental assistance program?
Sure. As of yesterday, we were at $1.3 million in approved payments going out. We're working on the first 1,000 applications. We have just under 3,300 applications, so we're working on the first third. We got 5 more temps through the temp service that started yesterday, 3 that started the Monday before. So we're finally, I think we have 14 of the 15 positions we wanted. This week I have a sense it'll probably be a little slower week just because we are in training mode of those new 8 temporary staff, but we're still rolling along. We do have a meeting this afternoon with Kansas Housing Resource Corporation for our collaboration with the city.
Excellent. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Further discussion? Is there any input from the public? See no input from the public, we'll bring it back to the bench. We have a couple other people on the board here, so Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. No questions, Sally. I just appreciate you pulling that together, Bob, and kind of highlighting where we're going with that and that timeline. So I think that would also be great to highlight when that does come to council, just how everything is coming together and how we can get off to a strong start.
Councilmember Sorello.
Thank you, Mayor. As a former member of the Grants Review Committee, I just wanted to take some time to thank them for their hard work and their decisions. These decisions aren't easy. I've been through it. There's a limited amount of funding for a lot of good organizations that do a lot of good work in our community. And our Grants Review Committee has to decide who gets what. And those aren't always easy decisions. So I wanted to thank you and them for their hard work.
Thank you.
That's all.
Further discussion? See none. If there is no further discussion, then I will make a motion to accept staff's recommended action to close in a public hearing, approve the funding allocations and staff and grant review committee's recommendations, authorize submission of the 2021 to 2022 annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and authorize the funding agreements and necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. There is no discussion. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. 7 yeas, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Airport Hotel LLC concession and lease agreement, Wichita Dwight D. Eisenhower National Airport.
Mayor, staff asked that this be deferred until May 11th.
Deferred to May 11th. Is there a motion to defer this till May 11th?
I'll make the motion to defer till May 11th.
I will second that motion. So there has been a motion by Councilmember Fry to delay this item till May 11th. It has been seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. The result of 7 yeas, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
Let's start off with appointments, if that's okay. Are there any appointments that would be made at this time by the council? We'll begin with appointments for May 4th. The Sedgwick County Commission is reappointing Tim Bonnell and Ron Ryan to the Wichita Airport Advisory Board. Their terms will expire March 31st, 2023. I am appointing Erica Sewer to my Small Business Advisory Council. Any other appointments? If there's no other appointments, I'll make a motion to accept the appointments.
I would like to add to that really quickly. My email is not pulling up quick enough, but I would like to appoint Daisha. She just got married and I forgot her last name. I apologize. 1 second.
Councilmember Sorello.
Daisha Eaton.
Just calling on the new guy to
the
distract
library
us.
board for
Go
District
ahead.
1, and I will send that application to you.
Go ahead, can you repeat the name, please?
Daisha Eaton.
Miss Eaton. Is there any other appointments? If there's no other appointments, I will make the motion to accept the appointments.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Clerk, open the roll. Members cast the vote. With the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, that motion does pass. Back on announcements for discussion for the good of the group. Are there any announcements? See no announcements. If there are no announcements or comments, then I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk, open the roll. Members cast the vote. Result of 7 yeas to 0 nays. That motion does pass. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.